What up, what up? You're now listening to the most valuable basketball podcast in Indonesia, Box Out Indonesia, with me, Mutia Rosastro. Kali ini gue sendirian. This is a special episode karena gue akan breakdown lebih lanjut IBL Playoffs preview akan berlangsung sesaat lagi, and I'm gonna learn because I'm gonna break it down to you what matters and from optic wise apa aja yang terjadi di lapangan, dan dari statistical preview apa aja temuan-temuan yang kami bisa kasih ke kalian para IBL fans dan juga para pendengar Box Out. So bear with me, this is the first time we're doing it. So I'm very excited to see the in-depth analysis for each of the series yang akan kita saksikan sesaat lagi first roundnya. Right, this is a very exciting moment, apalagi ada beberapa perubahan di IBL dari format. Di first round kita tetap masih menggunakan format best of 3, tapi nanti semifinals and finals akan menggunakan best of 5 kan ya. So let's get on to it. We have 4 series to talk about. Tapi sebelum membahas lebih lanjut, I want to have a disclaimer karena Muti akan bahas banyak tentang temuan Box Out, terutama di 3 matrix yang sebenarnya berhubungan satu sama lain. Intinya sebenarnya plus minus. Kita kan suka dengar ya, apa sih istilahnya plus minus untuk menentukan kandidat MVP race, or any other accolades di liga, defensive player, kemudian six man, sebagainya. Sebenarnya plus minus itu apa sih? Dan nanti Muti akan banyak bahas, gue akan banyak bahas this is like a plus minus stats but on steroids. Ada PIPM, ada OPIPM, ada DPIPM. Apa sih sebenarnya ya semua stats ini? IPM sebenarnya intinya adalah player impact plus minus. Technically like plus minus statistics, tapi rumusnya atau cara menghitungnya itu juga termasuk factoring atau juga mengconsider beberapa hal yang sifatnya tidak bisa dikontrol oleh pemain. Misalnya faktor luck kalau lagi melakukan free throw, misalnya the opponent's free throws and all that. Sebenarnya intinya adalah kan it will tell you how many points a player adds to their team's score over the course of 100 possessions. Intinya kayak gitu kan sebenarnya. Kemudian nanti metriknya ada OPIPM, ada DPIPM. From the offensive standpoint, from the defensive standpoint. Sebenarnya gampangnya seperti itu. Ada PIPM-nya adalah player impact plus minus, kemudian offensive side-nya adalah offensive player impact plus minus. Berarti ya the score is great. Kayak kartu rapor aja sebenarnya. Ketika dia ada di lapangan, dia bisa bantu nggak generating points, atau dia bisa terlibat nggak di dalam satu play-nya, dishing assists, hitting shots, or just having gravity that opens up the floor for your teammates. That's OPIPM. And then DPIPM sebaliknya, dari defensive standpoint, apa yang mereka berikan, apa yang bisa mereka kasih, and kalau OPIPM itu adalah what adds up to the team's performance, kalau DPIPM adalah what erases the opponent's performance, ya kan? Karena sisi defense kan, what do you do to adds up to team's defensive performance? Kurang lebih seperti itu. Gue akan bahas 4 series tersebut ya, satu persatu. Semoga kalian bisa bear with me. Let's talk about it. So, series number 1, Pelita Jaya versus Rans Simba Bogor, seed 1 lawan seed 8. So, traditionally, biasanya kan kalau bicara seed 1 ke 8, there's less likely chance untuk bisa upset ya. Jadi pasti orang-orang mengiranya ini pasti PJ gitu kan. Tapi kita lihat, let's take a look at the deeper state of the game of the series. Pertama-tama gue akan bahas the tactical chessboard antara kedua tim. So Pelita Jaya obviously seeding number 1, very dominant sepanjang regular season. Jadi sampel-sampel yang akan gue bawakan juga sepanjang pot ini adalah berkaitan dengan apa yang terjadi di regular season di musim ini. Apa ya, salah satu perubahan paling fundamentalnya kan perubahan coach. Ya, jadi ini berhasil atau enggak ya kira-kira. Kemudian Brandon Jawa atau nggak main dari awal, kemudian ada beberapa pemain yang on and off karena cedera gitu ya. Will Pelita Jaya came out on top, and they did gitu ya. Yang mau gue bahas pertama from the tactical standpoint, yang pertama adalah Pelita Jaya dictates the game better than anyone. They operate at the lowest pace in the league di regular season, and that's for the better thing. Kalau kalian lihat, ini juga kayaknya salah satu hal yang diadopsi Coach Dave juga dari Prawira Bandung. Kalau kalian lihat bagaimana mereka bermain dengan pace yang lambat, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's because they're very careful on each of every possession. Nih, di angka 81,88 dari sisi pace ya. Bacanya gimana sih, Mut? Artinya apa? Artinya Pelita Jaya averaging up to close to 82 possessions maximum per game, by the way. Jadi yang mereka lakukan, they take their time and then they calculate set plays, they run up the shot clocks, very surgical ball movement, dan semuanya tuh kayak terorkestra dengan baik. So they are actively draining the clock and playing slow on purpose. Sementara itu, di sisi lain, Rans Simba Bogor sitting at a faster 84.79 pace-nya. Ngaruhnya apa if Rans allows Pelita Jaya to walk and run their sets? It is a sweep. Karena Pelita Jaya terbiasa main seperti itu. They take their time, they are very surgical on each of every move, sehingga kalau mau ada head to head yang bisa ada slight chance untuk Rans lebih unggul, Rans has to dictate the pace sesuai yang mereka mau. They have to create chaos, they have to go uphill, full court press dari awal, sehingga Pelita Jaya mau nggak mau harus gimana caranya bisa membawa bola ke setengah lapangan secepat mungkin, karena chaosnya udah dikasih sama Rans dari awal ketika inbound. Number one. Number two, tactical chessboard yang gue juga pengen highlight. Ini juga salah satu yang Coach Dave juga pernah bilang di awal-awal ketika gue interview. This is one of Pelita Jaya's kryptonite actually. Adalah bahwa Pelita Jaya sebenarnya cukup kesulitan untuk protect second chance ball. Jadi dari sisi offensive rebound, ini yang diulang-ulang sama Coach Dave. Why don't we get the offensive glass? Dibandingkan dengan Rans, they have a massive 15.25 offensive rebounds per game compared to Pelita Jaya 11,5. Ini yang terendah di liga, by the way. Mereka mencatatkan offensive rebounds besar 230 offensive rebounds in total sepanjang musim ini. And then it directly translates to the scoreboard karena offensive rebound berhubungan dengan second chance point, whether or not you can actually save that possession, right? Itu berhubungan dengan second chance point mereka, di mana Rans mendominasi di sini 14,55 versus Pelita Jaya per game 9,90, nggak even menyentuh angka 10 untuk second chance point. Sebenarnya plannya akhirnya bisa dibikin simple ya kalau dengan logika seperti ini. Shoot quickly, crash the glass recklessly, and generate dirty points to break Pelita Jaya methodical rhythm. But that's on paper. It's easier said than done. Anyway, and on the other hand, Rans struggles to take care of the ball. Ini dari sisi turnover ya. Pelita Jaya mendominasi Rans di dua pertemuan mereka dari points of turnover. And Rans actually gotten worse dari game 1 dibandingkan game kedua. Game 1 Pelita Jaya punya 11 poin dari turnover. Game 2 Pelita Jaya punya 20 poin dari turnover. So Rans keep struggling on protecting their ball. Next, gue bahas tentang net rating discrepancy. Nah, net rating itu kan juga suka dibahas ya sama pengamat-pengamat basketnya seperti apa. So, net rating itu sebenarnya mudah dipahami. All it means is that imagine a perfectly fair game where both teams got the same chance to score. For example, Pelita Jaya versus Rans. They both got 100 chances to score. Net rating itu menggambarkan, so net rating is basically simply the condition where the final final point difference would be. So if a team has plus 12 net rating, for example, that means from the 100 chance for you to score, you can score 12 more compared to your opponents. If your net rating is minus, that means from the 100 chance for you to score, you are actually not producing well. You're actually getting minus, and you are giving away minus 12. So that's what happened with net rating. Sebenarnya it is an ultimate testament of who is actually dominating the flow of the game. Gampangnya gitu. Intinya seperti itu. So, balik lagi ke net rating discrepancy. Pelita Jaya nomor 1 di liga dengan double digit net rating, massive plus 21.37. Compared to Rans against the top 4 seeding, semua minus, all minus. So Rans has all negative net rating against top 4 seeding. Lawan Pelita Jaya, lawan SM, Bogor Hornbills, and Dewa United. Alright, let's talk about individual matchup. The Paint Bloodbath. Ini gue akan bahas tentang Jeff Whitty versus Aaron Fuller. Shockingly sebenarnya mereka secara tim Pelita Jaya sama Rans cukup imbang di pain points, 38,4 versus 38,5 average, and that is largely for Rans thanks to Aaron Fuller's interior dominance. However, this matchup atau Aaron Fuller in general, it is a double-edged sword, kayak pisau bermata dua ya, karena offensive PIPM yang tadi gue bilang ya, bagaimana seseorang produktif dari offensive side-nya, he is amazing, he is an offensive superstar di angka 3,23. Sementara defense-nya shaky banget Aaron Fuller, minus bahkan minus 2,40 untuk defensive PIPM-nya. So Pelita Jaya nggak perlu punya kompleks set untuk counter runs di interior presence. They will simply dump the ball to the big man, Jeff Whitty for example, yang offensive PIPM-nya tinggi banget, and let him feast on Fuller's defensive liability, possessions per possessions. And then transition warfare. Jangan salah ya, despite Pelita Jaya yang tadi gue sampaikan, Pelita Jaya walaupun slow pace, they will simply perfecting in the open floor when given the chance. Jadi kalau tadi gue bilang soal slow pace, itu ketika mereka memulai serangan. Tapi Pelita Jaya, they're very good on transition. So on fast break points, mereka sebenarnya even 14,45 versus 14,05. Jadi kalau mau menang Rans, kalau mau menandingi Pelita Jaya, sebenarnya metrik-metriknya sudah ada. Ada beberapa metrik yang mereka bisa menandingi Pelita Jaya. It's just on the matter of whether or not you can actually do something about it. And then next, gue akan bahas soal X factornya antara kedua matchup ini. I'm going to talk about the legendary Andakara Prastawa. Kita tahu Andakara Prastawa ini adalah seorang sniper. Ya, he plays full 20 games in the season, but from my findings, from box out findings, we find that his offensive PIPM is actually slightly negative right now. But that's not entirely a bad thing. PIPM itu kan sebenarnya it is a brilliant stat, but it heavily weighs box score production. Jadi points, assists, shooting efficiency karena offensive side kan. So negative rate meaning it's not that he's bad, but it's because Pelita Jaya runs such a methodical, slow-paced offense. Prastawa itu kadang dipakai sebagai decoy. Ya, Prastawa is part of the system. Prastawa is part of the offensive plays and runs, but eventually he's not the one that you give the ball to, and that's a luxury because 5 men on the court untuk Pelita Jaya, everyone can shoot. You will never know who's going to take the last shot. Karena reputasinya dia juga as a shooter, he has the gravity. That gravity opens up space for other guys. But because Prastawa isn't the one that's getting the assists or the buckets, the math doesn't reward him for it. Number 2, biasanya PIPM itu measures how much better or worse the team is when you are on the floor versus off the floor. Ya kayak plus minus aja sebenarnya. Nah, Pelita Jaya itu number 1 seed dengan plus 12 net ratingnya, meaning their bench is absolutely incredible. Nah, ketika Prastawa udah di bench, yang gantiin pun nggak kalah produktifnya gitu. Jadi kadang gapnya itu ada karena between him and his backup, sebenarnya gapnya itu dari sisi produktivitas tidak terlalu besar, tapi itu bikin jadinya penampilannya tuh kayak tidak terlalu extraordinary. Just because that's the luxury of Pelita Jaya. So why is he so valuable? Ini termasuk juga dengan candidacy Defensive Player of the Year-nya Prastawa. Kenapa? Because he is an elite defender, stat-wise or optic-wise. He's got a defensive PIPM of 2.06. He isn't just beating teams with his 3-point shot this season, he is choking them out of the perimeter. Jadi dia ini biasanya pairing dengan Perrin Bifford dijadikan perimeter defense, dijaga untuk perimeter, menjaga orang di perimeter defense. He's become a lockdown defender. He stops, he disrupts full court dengan full court press, and so that's what makes him very effective from both sides. Nah, selain Prastawa, ada yang bisa menandingi nggak dari Rans? I'm going to talk about Iton very quickly, Suryadin. Technically, sebenarnya on paper more effective than Prastawa, walaupun menitnya lebih sedikit ya, makanya kelihatannya kadang juga lebih efektif. Because when he's on the floor, he's doing all the right things. Iton itu punya efisiensi 58,18%. Him and Prastawa play almost identical minutes sebenarnya, tapi ratanya antara Prastawa versus keseluruhan pemain PJ dan Iton dengan keseluruhan pemain Rans tentu loadnya berbeda. So why is Prastawa's raw productivity double that? Ini kenapa kita bisa bilang PJ lebih superior, karena sebenarnya Iton productivity-nya lebih rendah itu sebenarnya not entirely his fault. It is a symptom of severely handicapped supporting cast. Jadi Prastawa bisa dapat open looks karena Pelita Jaya itu tadi runs a very methodical offensive setup, sementara Iton with their partners, with their offensive system mungkin not so much, not on par dibandingkan dengan Pelita Jaya. So if you wanna slay the number 1 seed, there is a very specific mathematical blueprint. You have to watch them in the paint, you have to match them in the transition, then exploit their inability to secure defensive rebounds. And that's it. And ada Aaron Fuller dengan and then individual advanced statnya ada Aaron Fuller, ada Jeff Whitty. Itu dari Jeff Whitty aja yang kita belum bahas lebih lanjut. Jeff Whitty, kalau kita bahas seorang Jeff Whitty, he is the anchor that will punish the likes of Aaron Fuller's defensive gaps, for example. Jeff Whitty has been very dominant, 28 poin saat itu season high lawan Pacific Cesar. Itu pun ada Eja Brahma di paint area ya, but he's very dominant that way. 12 dari 14 from the 2-point range. So technically Rans doesn't have a true answer for his length di paint area. Itu dari sisi offense. Dari sisi defense, Jeff Whitty doesn't just protect the rim, he mathematically locks it down. Jadi ketika Jeff Whitty ada di lapangan, opponent field goal percentage ya menurun minus 12,96%. Yeah, that's absurd. The next closest active player in the league itu Josh Ibarat dengan angka minus 3,63%. So Whitty is in a completely different stratosphere. Driving at him isn't just a basketball play, it is a turnover waiting to happen. So yeah, that's Pelita Jaya versus Rans, and then we're going to move on to Satria Muda versus Hang Tua Jakarta. Oh, also if you ask me, kira-kira gimana tiltnya seperti apa, game tiltnya seperti apa Pelita Jaya versus Rans? Do we think there is a potential upset? Well, if Rans dengan segala resource yang mereka punya, they do everything they can dari poin yang tadi gue sempat sampaikan, might be tapi lagi-lagi Pelita Jaya di regular season cukup superior, apalagi dengan nanti Brandon Jawato main lagi, kemudian Agassi yang tadinya regular season sempat nggak main, Arigi juga, kalau semua yang sehat, it might be predictable on how the series is going. Alright, series number 2, Satria Muda Pertamina Bandung versus Hang Tuah Jakarta, seeding nomor 2 versus nomor 7. So tactical chessboard. This is a battle between transition team versus half-court team. The team net ratings reveal everything sebenarnya. SM ini a championship level machine. They've got 85.63 defensive rating dan net ratingnya plus 12,90. Hang Tuah is a gritty, low-scoring defensive team. Dari angka 87,97 defensive ratingnya. Artinya apa di sini? Bukan berarti low scoring dalam artian mereka tidak menciptakan skor yang banyak, tapi kalau kita bicara defensive rating, that means they can lock their opponents untuk hanya bisa poin average maksimal banget di angka tersebut. 87,97. And then SM doubled Hang Tuah in transition. They are very good on fast plays, playing nickel on transitions. Ada 401 total fast break points dibandingkan dengan Hang Tuah satu season ada 244. Kemudian poin selanjutnya local depth, the bench. SM bench is virtually an Indonesian all-star team basically. Kemudian Hang Tuah optic wise dan dari stats aja kita bisa melihat sebenarnya Hang Tuah masih cukup reliant dengan para import mereka. Sementara SM locals, they can seamlessly take over the game without missing a beat. So that's the luxury that they have. SM relies on traditional post plays and experienced local depth. Hang Tuah plays a chaotic, high energy style yang bisa aja keulang lagi ketika 8 Mei melakukan upset. Itu kan karena itu juga ya, karena high energy, very explosive, offensive style as well. Will it happen again? Individual matchup, gue di sini pick twin importsnya Hang Tuah versus di Jalen Jones. Jalen Jones clearly at this point the best import di matchup ini, by the way. Walaupun gue melihat Hang Tuah di sini jelas Nick Hornsby, one of the best imports in the league. Nick Hornsby 250 paint points-nya, Rakim Christmas 220 paint points-nya. So the twin imports, they can actually make a dent. Ya, apakah bisa juga sampai upset? Let's see. And then Jalen Jones is right there with 234 paint points on his own. And then individual matchup ada juga soal transition defense-nya Hang Tuah versus the Niven Glover. Kenapa? Karena dia adalah terbaik di liga saat ini. He's the best in the league right now for fast break points. 10.5 average per game. I know it's a sample size, but it is a very hopeful number for Satria Muda. X Factor-nya, let's get on to X Factor. Ada siapa aja? Number 1, I'm very excited to talk about Yuda Saputra. Yuda Saputra isn't just the best local. He might be the most impactful guard in this series. Passingnya, he's racking, I think, 103 assists, leading all the players in this matchup. Ya, even beating out the elite playmakers kayak Nick Hornsby dengan 94 assist. Sementara Yuda punya 103 assist. Back in Prawira days, ini yang gue lihat juga cukup menarik karena sekarang utilitasnya seorang Doi itu jadi berubah dibandingkan di Prawira. Di Prawira terbiasa jadi spot up shooter, kadang jadi playmaker juga. Cuma load untuk dia jadi primary playmaker itu hampir nggak ada di Prawira, hampir jarang. An interchangeable scorer jelas ketika masih di Prawira. Sekarang he is shifting into a pure comfortable floor general who distributes the ball, tapi bisa flip the switch juga ketika dia dibutuhkan jadi the last shooter, little last shooter when the shot clock winds down. And he also has 64 paint points, which is proving his elite driving ability. And I love his floater. Semua pasti tahu very identic floater yang dipunyai sama Yuda Saputra. Finish about Yuda Saputra, Hang Tuah punya seorang Alvar Hedian. Banyak yang bilang juga nih, Alvar masuk dong ke kandidat ini, kandidat itu, kandidat ini, kandidat itu. Gue setuju banget. Alvar has an incredible impact. Not only does he boast an elite 2.33 defensive PIPM, but he is the only Hang Tuah player peaking into the top 10 points and racking up 44 assists as well. Jadi kayak Swiss Army knife sebenarnya. Lo minta dia untuk dishing assist bisa, lo minta dia buat scoring di paint juga bisa. Very tenacious, very fearless. Gue suka banget sama Alvar Hedian. Kemudian nextnya gue akan bicara tentang Altaf Satrio. He is huge stopper on defense. He is a point of attack defender. He is very diligent. We look at Altaf's on-off numbers as well gini ya. Ini on and off stats yang juga menarik karena ini menunjukkan bahwa Altaf itu adalah seorang legitimate perimeter disruptor. On pure efficiency, on off statsnya seorang Altaf Satrio, teams are hitting 8.7 3-pointers against Hang Tuah ketika Altaf lagi di bench dan gak main. But the second he checks in, that number drops to 7.5 made threes per 100 possessions. Artinya apa sih? Think of what that math means. His sheer presence on the court mathematically erases over a full 3-pointer per 100 trips around the floor. He is literally saving team over 3 points purely by chasing guys off the 3-point line and disrupting the opponent's ball movement. Chasing shooters, terutama lawan SM yang kadang bisa fast pace juga ya. The SM is a machine. So Hang Tuah needs someone like Altaf that's just tirelessly chasing down, ball getter. So next, kalau kita bicara individual advance statsnya, ada Yuda Saputra, tadi gue udah mention sedikit tentang total assistnya. Ada Niven Glover juga dengan very incredible disruption and transition speeds. Dan ada juga seorang Jalen Jones yang gue iseng juga cek shot chartnya, ini heat mapnya ya. Jalen Jones itu seperti apa. Obviously he is one of the best on the paint area, tapi yang juga menarik di sini itu kita bisa lihat bahwa Jones itu paling efektif ketika mendapatkan bola di dead center. Ya, hit mapnya itu paling tinggi ketika dia dapat bola di dead center and he finish it there. And so it looks like his efficiency, his accuracy itu berkurang ketika dia dipaksa untuk ke arah kanan atau kiri. So when the opponent's bigs force him to going left or right away from the basket before he gathers, he will simply lack efficiency. But yeah, let's see Jalen Jones, because he's very effective di paint area. Apakah itu juga akan terbukti? Apakah itu hanya small sample aja soal inefficiency, atau emang dia terbukti efektifnya itu di center? Nick Hornsby, the definition of heavy workload. He leads Hang Tuah in assists and paint points. He generate massive offense, tapi defensive PIPM-nya ini shows that he can get exhausted and leaks point on the other hand. Understandably, probably because of the load. So yeah. So if you ask me if there's any chance Hang Tuah bisa curi game pertama, apakah ya? Yes, because I love Gor Ciracas. Gor Ciracas itu biasanya sangat ramai juga gitu ya. Anything can happen, very magical situation when you play at home. So let's see. Alright, let's talk about Bogor Hornbills versus Ksatria Bengawan Solo, seeding number 3 and seeding number 6. Tactical chessboard. Mereka perbedaannya seperti apa sih? KBS is built to outscore you. They have a very high-octane basketball, very physical, but their defensive schemes are a bit shaky. Sementara Bogor Hornbills, they run a terrifyingly balanced rotation. They're actually very good on both ends. Pertama-tama, kalau kita bahas keduanya ya, dari sisi targeting the paint, their paint presence, Bogor itu adalah tim yang kalau kalian nonton aja, they're very aggressive to attack the rim. They know that, especially against Ksatria Bengawan Solo. Ada si Jagetis yang bisa di eksploitasi. But CJ Gettys is an offensive monster. He quite struggles heavily the defensive rotation. So Bogor's goal is to turn this into a half-court physical grind. Jadi bisa expose defensive liability yang dimiliki oleh Solo. Individual matchup-nya ada apa aja? Yang pertama gue akan bahas the playmaker duel antara Anthony Erga versus Abraham Wenas. I love Anthony Erga's development, by the way. Gue berprediksi kayaknya dia akan dapat salah satu accolades yang dikasih ke dia nominasinya saat ini. Bogor, kalau kita bicara seorang Anthony Erga, he is a high volume maestro. Dia ini ada di top 7, number 7 actually in overall di sepanjang liga untuk assist per game, yaitu 6,55 average-nya. Tapi sisi lain Abraham Wenas juga ada rate yang harus lo lihat juga. Ada salah satu statistical point, it's one of my favorites, which is assist to turnover ratio. It's one of my favorites. Do you have a favorite stat line? It's quite nerdy, but I love Abraham Wenas on his ability as a local point guard to actually secure the ball. Assist to turnover-nya rate-nya adalah 2.82. So he boasts the best ATO against any other local guards in the league. That is the passing clinic versus surgical security personified ya, antara Anthony Erga versus Abraham Wenas. You have Anthony Erga yang bisa ngasih high risk high return untuk bisa pass dan feeding the bigs, Bogor bigs. On the other side you have Abraham Wenas who simply does not make mistake. It is a master class in game management. Sementara Erga will try to speed the game up karena Bogor juga playing very fast in transition, while Abraham Wenas will probably going to dictate the half court tempo and refuse to turn the ball over. So this is a very interesting matchup to see. Nah, matchup kedua yaitu ada Stefan Branch versus duo impornya KBS ya. Stefan Branch ini adalah salah satu deadliest thief in the IBL right now. He's leading the league with a massive 3.5 steals per game, and then it translates directly to his offense because he ranks third in fast break points, yaitu 7,10 per game. Tapi KBS juga punya transition monsters on their own. Ini matchup yang menarik. Jadi antara Stefan Branch versus ada KB, Kentrell Barkley, and Rayvonte Rice. Mereka, kalau tadi bicara fast break points, mereka pun juga gak kalah bagus di fast break points. They rank 6th and 7th. 6-7. KB dengan 6.28 fast break points. Rayvonte Rice, 6.22 in fast break points. So you have to be careful on that. Both sides are fast break assassins. And then let's talk about paint area. Siapa aja penghuninya di paint area untuk series ini? Ada Trayvon Thibodeau, ada Stefan Branch versus Kentrell Barkley. The biggest what if yang dimiliki IBL musim lalu menurut gue kalau KB nggak cedera. The paint area is going to be a bloodbath. This is going to be interesting because they have two guys that live in the rim. Ada Trayvon Thibodeau, 5th overall untuk paint points dengan 13,9 average-nya, dan ada Stefan Branch, rank 6th dengan 13,7 paint points-nya. Tapi KBS bisa counters. Ada Kentrell Barkley, sits in number 7 dengan 13,56 paint points-nya, who is also an offensive rebounding machine. Number 3 in offensive rebound dengan 4,94 per gamenya, leading to number 4 in second chance point. So we talk about Bogor's Twin Tower dominating inside, but numbers show it's actually a 3-headed monster attacking the rim with Travin and Stefan Branch. So how does KB Control Barkley survive that kind of size? Well, it's with his pure hustle. Barkley itu real superpowernya sebenarnya adalah untuk bisa keep the possessions alive. Control Barkley, very influential on offensive boards. He grabs nearly 5 offensive rebounds per game, and then it translates to second chance point karena dia bisa generate massive second chance points as well. Sementara Bogor relies on size and set plays to score inside. Barkley is going to save the ball, crushing the glass and manufacturing points to keep Solo alive. X factornya nih, ini juga menarik nih. Gua akan bahas orang Afan Saputra. Afan Saputra ini adalah salah satu statistical anomaly. Kenapa? He has an elite offensive PIPM sebesar 2,25. Jadi dia adalah seorang little scorer. Afan itu selalu bisa diandalkan with his seniority as well. Tapi ada hal yang lacking dari sisi defensive standpoint-nya. It essentially means sebenarnya ketika lo bisa mendapatkan produktivitas dari Afan Saputra di offensive side, apakah defense-nya itu sepadan atau malah justru lebih nombok? Itu yang juga jadi harus bahan perhatiannya tim Solo. Karena ini juga akan jadi game plan yang simple untuk Bogor kalau Afan terus-terusan inefficient di defensive end. Every single time down the floor, you run a pick and roll directly at Afan and force him to guard. X factornya adalah yaitu X factornya if Afan starts to play better defense, it'll be an even matchup untuk Bogor untuk bisa menandingi seorang Afan Saputra. And then ada Firdan Guntara. Firdan boasts an overall PIPM of 2.56. Ini dengan catatan Firdan itu bermain rata sekitar 16 menitan di lapangan. Artinya apa? He doesn't have to have a huge load or huge minutes per game, but the number is actually higher than some imports in the league. Kenapa? Karena mathematically, kalau lihat dari statsnya aja dan lihat dari optiknya aja, he's very elite on both sides of the ball. Having a player who can come in, score efficiently, and lock down his assignment without bleeding points is an absolute luxury. Jadi dia benar-benar adalah ultimate two-way engine. Harus hati-hati sama foul trouble-nya aja sih. Dan karena Idan itu suka banget bikin sacrifice foul gitu ya, so he throws his body a lot to the defensive performance of Bogor. Akhirnya itu hati-hati cedera dan sebagainya. And then let's talk about Sefli Rondono. I love this guy, apalagi di at least 5 pertandingan terakhir deh di regular season. He's very clinical from the 3-point line. Seniority-nya udah gak diragukan lagi. And then Caleb Wesson juga the captain. Ini juga akan jadi hal yang menarik untuk melihat Caleb Wesson versus CJ Gettis, because what Caleb Wesson has is that he can shoot 3. Dibandingkan dengan CJ Gettis, it's very aggressive in the paint area. Sementara Caleb Wesson ini adalah dengan gravity yang dia punya, because he's also quite little in the perimeter, dan gravity yang dia punya pun akhirnya bisa menarik defendernya, yang mana most likely could be someone who evens out the point. Kalau Wesson bisa menarik defender itu keluar, and that means we have the paint area. Feel free for Stefan Branch to roam around, for Idan, for David Nuban to drive and kick dan sebagainya. The possibility is endless. And quickly talk about Rayvonte Rice. Lagi-lagi walaupun sample size-nya juga kecil, tapi dengan 9 game yang dia mainkan, Rayvonte Rice has quite a MVP level burden lah ya, karena overall PIPM-nya pun juga it's quite astronomical, 4.15. Offensively, he's an unstoppable force with a 2.9 T rating. But more importantly, defensive PIPM-nya itu highly positive, 1,25, 1.25. He is virtually the only player keeping KBS afloat on the defensive end, carrying the scoring load alongside KB juga. So the statistical theme-nya ada yang pertama adalah defensive rating discrepancy. Karena defensive rating itu kan adalah sekali lagi melihat atau measures up how many points a team gives up every 100 points. So KBS Solo sits at 101.25. In almost any professional league, giving up over a point per position means your defense is leaky. Kontrasnya, look at Bogor, defensive ratingnya 92,10. Bukan cuma di bawah 100%, tapi they can keep it around 92.1. That is an elite championship level defensive metric. Terus net ratingnya ini KBS juga punya explosive scorer kayak Rayvonte Rice, Avan Saputra. Tapi kalau dilihat dari net ratingnya minus 2,44. So reality is they actually give up more points than they score. So their offensive rating doesn't even offset their defense, basically. How does a team like that survive? It proves the point entirely. They don't win a sustainable system, but they are on positive trend. Jadi, if you ask me, ada nggak kira-kira kesempatannya untuk KBS bisa at least dapat upset ataupun bisa mencuri game? Yes, sangat-sangat bisa. Tapi yang udah yang kelihatan di regular season, they lack defensive system, but they can make up for it when their perimeter shootings are hot. So ultimately ball security di KBS, they committed league low 208 turnovers all season, and then it results to the best assist to turnover ratio in the IBL di angka 1,86. To put to perspective, anything over 1.5 is an elite ball security. Pushing near 2.0 means this team operates with surgical precision. Salah satunya juga yang tadi gue bahas ya, karena Abraham Wenas juga ya, he's being the primary playmaker. What does that mean for Bogor? It means no freebies. You cannot rely on KBS to waste the ball, throw the ball away and give up easy fast break points. So Bogor have to play a grueling locked in half court defense for the full 24 seconds. Ya, karena KBS nih sistemnya juga relies on drive and kick. Guys like Rayvonte Rice, Avan Saputra penetrate, draw the defense, and they make the right read to open shooters. Jadi spot up shootingnya pun juga bekerja banget, dan itu yang terjadi di beberapa pertandingan terakhir. Kenapa Solo juga akhirnya efektif banget di area perimeter. But here's the counter punch, which brings me to my next point. Bogor's passing ability. Bogor punya league high 470 assists this season. So you have a fascinating clash of style. Ada KBS yang surgical, low risk basketball, and we have Bogor who are using relentless high volume ball movement to feed everyone, whoever that is in the restricted area. It is the team that makes the fewest mistake versus the team that makes the most extra passes. So this is going to be very, very interesting. So if you ask me, will there be an upset potential? Only if KBS is scorching hot on the offensive side, because from the defensive standpoint, the gap is almost quite astronomical. Jadi KBS-nya harus flawless and not only perfectly fine, tapi harus flawless ketika mereka megang bola dan actually getting possessions and actually getting shots up. They have to be surgical, because defensive standpoint, I don't know how you will beat Bogor's defensive standpoint. Alright guys, last series, so bear with me because this is a fun one. Seeding number 4 and seeding number 5, Dewa United Banten versus Tangerang Hawks. let's talk about the tactical chessboard. Yang pertama, Dewa United, they are clearly the offensive juggernaut, the best scoring team right now di Liga saat ini. They just dismantled the Hawks 101-60 di pertemuan mereka di Mei, and their tactical prowess lies in positionless basketball in the best way possible. Everyone can shoot, everyone can pass. It's almost always unpredictable. Sementara Tangerang Hawks got one of the best scorers in the league right now, the Gentle Sila, very reliable. The two imports, walaupun it's quite a small sample size karena mereka baru datang ya, tapi Darnell Coward at least can give an actual paint presence dan bisa physical ya, main physical di restricted area. Individual matchup, we have Troy Glenwater versus Gentle Sila. This is a heavyweight scoring duel nih ya. Both are elite bucket getters, and Glenwater's of course efficiency-nya, I would say it's the gold standard right now. But before we get on to that, nanti akan aku jelaskan lebih lanjut. Now, let's talk about the X factor for this series. I'm gonna start with Dewa United. I'm gonna talk about this player. Satu nama pemain ini yang gue rasa para supporternya juga setuju that he is very influential. He was the Finals MVP last season, and I've got hypothesis as to why he's part of the X factor on this series in this season. Joshua Ibarra. I'm gonna start with a stat line yang sangat-sangat menarik untuk dikulik buat gue, yaitu regularized adjusted plus minus RAPM. Biasanya traditional stats itu tracks everything that is tangible, points, rebounds, assists, ya kan? Tapi jarang untuk stat line bisa track gravity seseorang. The panic a player causes when he touches the ball, forcing 3 defenders to collapse, leaving shooters wide open, especially for Dewa United. They've got possibly every players in the court bisa shoot, ya kan? Jadi the stat line tracks how much better a team functions purely by a player existing on the floor. Ibarra has an offensive RAPM of 4.376, second best overall in the league right now. It mathematically proves that even if Ibarra isn't shooting or passing or assisting, his sheer presence inside the paint elevates Dewa offense by over 4 points per 100 possessions because defenses are simply terrified by him. And then number 2, the OPIPM. I talked about this before. That offensive player impact plus minus. And he's got third best overall OPIPM. His usage is 25.1%. It is high, but not extraordinary. This is a great example of how stat reliant without you actually watching the game can be deceiving. What does this example of discrepancy mean? It means he creates a disproportionate amount of positive impact without needing to constantly shoot the ball. He creates space. Jadi ketika Hawks main nanti lawan Dewa, watch the wing defenders. The second Ibarra puts the ball on the floor, those defenders can possibly react or overreact and take 2 steps inside the paint, and that split-second reaction is all the likes of Dio Tirta, Hardianus Lakudu need to get clean look from the 3. And then next off, if you want to know exactly how much Joshua Ibarra bends a defense, we don't even need to look at his own points. We just need to look at Dewa's shooter. When Ibarra's benched, Dewa makes about 9 3 points per 100 possession. That's a solid number. But the second Ibarra steps back onto the floor, that number skyrockets to nearly 12 made threes per 100 possession. Think about the math. Dewa United 3-point productionnya jumps by over 30% just by having him on the floor. That is the definition of gravity. Jadi ketika Ibarra ada di dekat restricted area, di ring or post up, the opposition's perimeter defender can panic and collapse. They take one step too far, or having like the likes of kayak Dio Tirta, Rio DC to be open. Seru banget ya untuk nanti kita saksikan seperti apa perbandingannya antara big man antara kedua tim ini. Terus sebelum bahas lebih lanjut yang tadinya X Factor soal di Dewa United, gue juga akan membahas di Tangerang Hawks. Ada local Avengers mereka, and I wanna give the local players their flowers because they have been balling, they're hustling throughout the season. 3 names: Yesaya Saudale, Justin Jaya, dan Gabriel Batistuta. First off, Yesaya plays massive minutes, and it is very exciting to see his development. 31,09 menit per game, dan dia bisa manage untuk tetap produktif. Ya, baik itu dari numbers-nya, baik itu dari apapun yang kita lihat di lapangan. Numbers are too complicated, Mutia. What is it? What are these? It means he has no glaring weaknesses. Mau timnya main half court lah, mau timnya bermain fast break on transition lah, defending the perimeter, the Hawks are mathematically a better basketball team because Yesaya is on the floor. He is fundamentally changing the pace of the game. He is sitting at 8th overall in assists with 6.12 per game, meaning he is one of the instrumental reasons the Hawks get into their sets. What Dewa needs to worry about is his defense leading to offense, karena he averaged 2.59 steals per game, number 6th overall, and he turns those steals into average 1.76 fast break points. If Dewa plays calculated half-court basketball, Yesaya is the guy who will rip the ball away from you and push the tempo before Dewa's defense can actually set. So yeah. He is a net positive in every single phase of the game. He doesn't take bad shots. He doesn't miss rotation, and he sets the table for everyone else. We just need him to stay healthy. All right, number 2, Justin Jaya. Every playoff team needs a rotation guy who comes in and just calms the chaos. For Hawks, that's Justin Jaya Puyanto. So he doesn't have a lot of minutes. Dia bermain itu rata-rata sekitar 10 menitan per game, but he doesn't need to have minute load yang banyak karena dia bermain full 20 game di regular season. But if you look at his shooting right now, his true shooting percentage itu sekitar 42,6%. He's not out there to be the primary scorer, but despite that, he has the highest overall PIPM of any local player on the roster. How does the guy that has below average shooting bisa memiliki impact yang segitunya positif di offensive side mereka? Jawabannya 1, ball security. He average only 0.80 turnover per game. Against team like Dewa, you cannot afford empty possessions, buang-buang live ball possessions, because Dewa will hurt you with your mistakes. So yeah, Justin Jaya is the ultimate stabilizer, and you need that kind of guy in the playoffs. Number 3, Gabriel Batistuta Rizky. We've talked about Yesaya pushing the tempo and Justin stabilizing the offense, but we have to talk about the guy who actually has to put the ball in the basket when Dewa inevitably double teams the likes of Gentle Sila and the likes of other imports. Enter Gabriel Batistuta. Among all the Hawks locals dengan minute yang cukup serupa atau usage yang serupa, Gabu punya true shooting percentage di angka 56,84%. He doesn't need a high volume of shoots to get the rhythm, but you can look at the 3-point shooting Dia bisa mendapatkan 15 dari 41 attempt season ini. So nearly 37% from the deep. He is a legitimate floor spacer. And the best part is, he's the ultimate low maintenance player. Dia cuma committing 9 turnover all season long. When and if there was defense collapse into the paint, Gabu is the release valve station in the corner, ready to make them pay. All right, let's talk about Dewa's offensive rating. Offensive ratingnya ini historically good. They don't just score, but they score efficiently. They are a motion-heavy team. Banyak run extra passes to hurt the oppositions. They simply generate better shots on the floor. How would I know? I want to walk you through the number, the math of their efficiency. First off, I want to preface by saying mid-range jumper itu adalah possibly the worst shots you can get. Karena gini, usually heavily contested, has a lower make percentage than a layup, but they don't reward you with 3-pointers. It's still 2-pointers. So it is mathematically the worst shot on the floor. Nah, Dewa's mid-range is incredibly low all season. So they simply don't take bad shots. Jadi dari 20 game, Dewa United itu memiliki average 2,45 mid-range jumper per game. That is mathematically insane. It means 90.3% of all their 2-point scoring games are coming from point-blank range. Layup, dunks, post-ups, everything that is very surgical around the dunker spot. They did it. Tapi yang ngelihatnya ya dari kacamatanya ya nggak bisa dari kacamata sesimpel itu sebenarnya. Nggak bisa yang kayak kalau Dewa nggak scoring dari point blank range berarti they don't score at all or they just score a long two. Nggak juga gitu ya, karena kalau lihat ya udah lihat Troy Gillenwater very surgical on the fadeaway jumper dan sebagainya, cuma memang masih terhitungnya di area mid range bukan di luar itu. So again, very surgical for Dewa United because they don't take bad shots, as in mid-range jumpernya nggak terlalu banyak. Number 2, Hawks ball security. Hawks are built to grind. They don't have the firepower to trade threes like Dewa. So their mathematical path to victory, hitung-hitungannya adalah having more shot attempts than Dewa by simply not turning the ball over. So if the Hawks locals play zero mistake basketball, mereka bisa melimitasi fast break points yang dimiliki oleh Dewa United. And Hawks do pass. Average assist mereka itu percentage-nya adalah di angka yang cukup tinggi, very high really, 67,28%. It means over 2/3 of the shots the Hawks make come directly from a pass, and that's a terrific thing. They are not a stagnant, isolation-only team, but when the game gets tight and the pressure is on, they completely abandon it. Terus rely solely on imports, yaitu Gentle Silat. Produksinya Gentle Silat, it will probably drop late in the game karena cowards late in the game still proven inefficient. So empty possessions leads you nowhere. So that's why jawabannya adalah either the team should stop relying on a one-on-one production dari Gentle Sila against the defenders, and or everyone needs to step up to create extra passes and actually make the shots, make the offense to be set up more unpredictable. And it is a fire versus fire karena mereka ini adalah tim yang juga dari sisi kecepatan mereka juga bermain sangat cepat ya. Jadi they sitting at the third in the league with 85.25 possessions per game. But guess who is number 1? the Tangerang Hawks. The Hawks lead the entire IPL in pace with a blistering 86.52. So they don't just match Dewa United's speed. Statistically, they surpass it. This is why a guy like Yesaya is so critical. He thrives in chaos and transition. Dewa United wants to run you out of the gym, but they're going to go up against the one team that is comfortable being in that kind of fast pace. So that's very interesting. Lanjutin lagi, kalau kita bicara individual advanced stats, gue pengen kalian fokus ke Gentle Sila yang tadi gue lanjutkan ya. Usage-nya Gentle Sila. For Gentle Sila's case, fatigue usually sets in. Jadi efisiensinya tuh berkurang banget ketika late games. Gue punya data soal clutch game-nya seorang Gentle Sila, dimana ketika bermain di clutch situations, percentage-nya dari sisi point ada di angka 10,4 versus normal di angka 80,3% kesuksesannya intinya. So on clutch situation, his production drops up to probably 70%. Usage-nya pun juga sangat-sangat berkurang minutes per game-nya. Ini juga membuktikan bahwa Tangerang Hawks still very heavily reliant on the imports, and this is what they need to fix coming to the playoffs. So yeah, this is a very interesting matchup. Terutama tadi Gentle Sila gue sebutkan. Terakhir ada seorang Troy Glenwater, and I want to talk about DJ Cooper. DJ Cooper, nggak usah lihat dari stat lines-nya aja. Just look at how he is on the floor. He is an ultimate cheat code because you will never know. Is he going to pass? Is he going to shoot? Or is he going to shoot three? Crazy. Apalagi ketika di BCL Asia, you can look at his very confident scoring on the perimeter, very surgical passes juga yang membuat passesnya dan benar-benar passesnya tuh membelah defenders, going through defenders, very very clinical, and this is what makes Dewa United is a very well-rounded cheat code untuk semua lawan-lawannya. And of course the MVP nominee Rio DC makin naik trennya juga, dan Rio DC pun juga secara scoring levelnya pun juga dia bukan cuma bisa scoring di 3-point line aja, tapi dia juga bisa kasih passing yang baik ke teman-temannya. Dia bisa jadi gravity juga because of his scoring. He actually makes better gravity compared to any other local players in the court, any other local players in the team actually. Karena orang takut banget gimana caranya Rio DC ini, apakah dia akan shoot, apakah dia akan baseline drive, and he's very good at it. And one of the things that I think makes him a better player is his decision making. He's got a terrific court vision, just like DJ Cooper, and he knows exactly when to shoot, and he knows exactly when to pass to the teammates. He knows what is the most effective one, and it helps that he has set of teammates that are so reliable. Mau dari wing, corner, restricted area, dari long three, semuanya possibly bisa shoot. So it is a very motion heavy, very highly assisted team structure yang gue rasa membuat Dewa salah satu contender yang sangat-sangat kuat. But Tangerang Hawks, will they have the willpower and actually have the physical ability to compete with Dewa? I would really hope so, biar seriesnya jadi makin kompetitif dan juga makin seru. So yeah, it is a very interesting matchup between the two. Although the 41 point gap in their last meeting, ini suggests a significant talent disparity, but I hope that's not that big of a case coming to the playoffs, apalagi best of 3. So it is not just about individual and just team structure aja, but it is also about coaching adjustment, which I'm very very excited to see kayak apa, apalagi di semua seriesnya. Alright, that is all from me. I hope this is giving you a very in-depth look on how the playoffs on IBL gonna go. Di IBL bakal kayak apa playoffnya ya. Kita akan mulai di hari Sabtu, mulai game pertama. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. See you on the venue. I'm very excited to cover the game dan ngelihat seberapa banyak nih analisis-analisis yang emang akhirnya kejadian di lapangan. But yeah, very excited to welcome the IBL playoffs and hopefully you stick around to watch it and enjoy the total playoff experience. I'm Mutiara Sastro. This is Box Out. I'm signing out. See you next time.